There is a very specific, quiet kind of shock that hits you when you are standing in the middle of a grocery store aisle holding a plastic shopping basket, and you suddenly realize your legs feel heavy and weak just from standing on the linoleum floor. I spent 32 years as a supervisor down at the logistics center here in Knoxville. For 3 solid decades, I made my living on my feet. I walked miles every single shift on hard, unyielding concrete. I loaded heavy freight, climbed metal ladders, and never once worried about my legs giving out. I just assumed that because I was strong at 40 and because I was still carrying heavy loads at 50, my body would simply stay strong forever. I thought I had built a permanent foundation, but the human body does not care what you did 20 years ago. Muscle does not remember the double shifts you worked in the 90s. When I retired and finally traded the noise of the warehouse for the quiet comfort of my living room, my body realized the heavy demands were over. And because I stopped demanding strength, my body started quietly packing it up and throwing it away. I started noticing it when I would stand in front of the meat counter at the supermarket. I would be looking at the price of a decent cut of beef, shifting my weight from one leg to the other, and my thighs would feel hollow. My knees would ache, and I would feel this deep, frustrating fatigue that had nothing to do with being tired. It was weakness, pure and simple. I was losing the physical machinery that powered my independence, and I was doing it while staring at a piece of steak I could not justify buying on a fixed pension. I went home and sat at the kitchen table with my daughter Megan. She is 44 years old and works as an occupational therapist. She spends her days watching exactly what happens when older folks lose their leg strength and their balance. I told her I felt like my legs were evaporating. She did not sugarcoat it for me. She told me about a process called sarcopenia, which is the natural, aggressive shrinking of our muscle mass as we age. She explained that after we cross 50, we start losing about 1 to 2% of our muscle every single year. By the time we hit 80, if we do nothing to stop it, we can lose up to 30% of our total strength. A third of your engine just gone. That is the difference between getting out of a chair by yourself and needing someone to pull you up. But when I started looking into how to fix this, I got angry. Everywhere I looked, the fitness industry and the health magazines were pushing the idea that building muscle after 60 requires a massive budget. They want you to believe you need to spend $200 a month on premium protein powders, fancy specialty meals, or expensive supplements in shiny plastic jugs. I am a retired man living on a budget. I do not have hundreds of dollars a month to throw at protein powder. It felt like they were saying that only rich people get to keep their strength as they age. But I refuse to accept that. For the past 3 years, I have paid very close attention to why some folks my age stay incredibly strong and independent, while others just slowly fade into weakness. And the surprising truth I discovered had absolutely nothing to do with spending a fortune. In fact, the strongest seniors I observed were often the ones spending the least amount of money. They simply knew how to choose the right raw materials. They found the exact foods their aging bodies could actually use, and they bought them from the budget aisle. I took everything I learned, and I completely changed the way I eat. I found 7 cheap, incredibly powerful high-protein foods that completely rebuilt the muscle in my legs and shoulders. I am going to share all 7 of them with you right now, counting down to the absolute best one, and I need you to stick with me to the end, because the number one food on this list costs less than 50 cents a serving and delivers more usable muscle-building power to your body than those expensive powders that cost 20 times as much. Number 7 on the list is something I used to think of as bait: canned sardines. I know a lot of folks cringe at the thought of them, and I did too for a long time. But for a senior on a tight budget who needs to rebuild muscle, these little fish are absolute powerhouses. You can buy a can for about $1.25, and inside that tin, you are getting 23 grams of complete protein. But the protein is only half the story. The real magic for guys my age is the omega-3 fatty acids. As we get older, our muscles are constantly being damaged by low-grade, silent inflammation. It is like a slow fire burning away your muscle tissue faster than your body can rebuild it. The omega-3s in sardines actually lower that inflammation and stop the breakdown of the muscle. I read a study published in a major clinical nutrition journal that tracked older adults over 3 years. The folks who ate tiny fatty fish like sardines twice a week lost considerably less muscle than the folks who did not, and more importantly, they maintained their grip strength and their walking speed. They kept their actual functional independence. I started mashing them up with a little lemon juice and putting them on a piece of whole grain toast in the afternoon. Sometimes I just mix them right into my morning eggs. They have a long shelf life, you do not have to cook them, and the tiny soft bones inside give you the calcium you need to keep your own bones from getting brittle. For $1.25, it is the same high-quality protein as a $60 plate of salmon at a fancy restaurant. Number 6 is something my mother used to keep in the refrigerator back when I was a kid: cottage cheese. A lot of people think it is just an outdated diet food from the 70s, but they are dead wrong. For about $2.50, you can buy a 16-ounce container, and just one single cup gives you 24 grams of dense protein. What sets cottage cheese apart is something called casein protein. Casein is incredibly slow to digest. As we age, our muscles suffer from something called anabolic resistance. That means our bodies become stubborn, and they do not react to protein as efficiently as they used to. If you drink a fast-digesting protein shake, your aging body might just waste half of it. But the slow release of the casein in cottage cheese gives your muscles a constant, steady supply of amino acids over several hours. It is the difference between trying to water a dry garden with a fire hose versus using a slow drip line. I read research showing that older adults who ate casein protein, especially before bed, saw notable increases in their muscle growth and their strength because the body uses that slow protein to repair tissue overnight. My wife Linda is 70 years old, and she was the one who really took to this habit. She started buying the full fat versions because the fat actually helps your body absorb the protein and the fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D. She mixes it with a handful of berries in the afternoon. It costs less than 3 cents per gram of protein, making it infinitely cheaper than any protein bar on the market, and it tells your body to hold the line on muscle loss. Number 5 on my list is something you find sitting quietly on the bottom shelf of the dry goods aisle: lentils. You can buy a whole pound of dry lentils for under $1.50, and one cooked cup delivers 18 solid grams of protein. Now, I never used to look at beans or legumes as muscle-building food. In my mind, you needed a heavy piece of meat to get strong. But lentils provide a unique combination of protein, fiber, B vitamins, and most importantly, iron. A lot of older folks walk around feeling deeply fatigued, weak, and out of breath. They think it is just the natural result of aging, but very often it is a mild iron deficiency that is starving their muscles of oxygen. Lentils correct that gap. They also contain an amino acid called leucine, which is the specific trigger that tells your body to start synthesizing new muscle. They are one of the few plant proteins that can actually do that. I started making hearty stews with brown and green lentils because they hold their shape and have a rich, almost meaty texture. I remember my son Derek coming over for dinner one evening. He had spent the whole day crawling under a house fixing a busted furnace. I gave him a massive bowl of lentil stew cooked with garlic and ginger. He ate the whole thing and talked about how solid and satisfied he felt. The high fiber content in lentils also supports your gut health, which is absolutely vital because if your digestive system is not working right, you will not absorb the nutrients from anything else you eat. Number 4 is an old reliable staple that I had completely forgotten how to utilize. Canned tuna. For just $1 a can, you get 22 grams of incredibly high-quality protein. That is the exact same muscle-building fuel you would get from a fresh cut of expensive fish, but it sits quietly in your pantry for months with zero preparation required. The reason tuna is so effective for seniors is its remarkable amino acid profile combined with the fact that it is naturally very low in fat and calories. When we get older, carrying around excess body fat is not just uncomfortable, it actually disrupts the hormones we need to promote muscle growth, and it drives up the systemic inflammation that destroys our tissue. Tuna gives you all 9 essential amino acids without dumping extra calories into your system. Plus, the protein is highly bioavailable. Our digestive efficiency declines as the years go by, but research shows that older adults absorb fish protein at rates above 90%. Your body does not have to fight a war to extract the nutrients. At $1 a can, you are paying less than 5 cents per gram of protein. Compare that to the high-end supplements marketed to seniors that can cost 10 times as much. I buy the Chunk Light tuna packed in water to keep the calories down. When I finish working in the backyard, maybe fixing a loose board on the fence or cleaning out the gutters, I do not make a complicated meal. I just open a can, mix it with a little black pepper, and eat it with some whole grain crackers. It is immediate, cheap, effective fuel for the muscles I just finished using. Now, before I give you the final 3 foods on this list, the ones that form the absolute bedrock of my daily routine, I want you to really think about how much money you might be wasting trying to buy your health back. The fitness industry wants you confused. They want you thinking that health is complicated and expensive. But the truth is always simple, and it is usually sitting right in front of you. Number 3 on the list proves exactly that point. Eggs. You can buy a dozen whole eggs for about $2.50. That means, for 20 cents, you are getting 6 grams of the most complete protein available on Earth. Eggs have the highest protein quality score of any whole food in existence. Your body knows exactly what to do with them, and it uses nearly every single gram. But here's where so many folks my age make a terrible mistake. They throw away the yolk. They heard some outdated advice decades ago, and they only eat the egg whites. Half of the protein in an egg is actually locked inside the yolk, along with vital nutrients like choline, vitamin D, and leucine. I read a fascinating study showing that people who ate whole eggs after exercising had a 40% greater muscle growth response compared to people who only ate the whites. The nutrients in the yolk create a synergy that allows your body to actually use the protein in the white. It is a complete package designed by nature. Furthermore, eggs are one of the very few natural food sources of vitamin D, which directly impacts the performance and strength of your muscles. Seniors with high vitamin D levels simply have stronger legs, and the healthy fat in the yolk ensures your body actually absorbs that vitamin D. I stopped worrying about the old cholesterol myths. I eat 2 whole eggs every single morning. I scramble them with a little spinach, or I hard-boil them to eat as a snack when I am out running errands. They are the cheapest, most efficient biological fuel you can put in your engine. Number two is something I initially resisted because it felt like a modern health trend: Greek yogurt. But the science behind it is undeniable. For about $5, you can buy a massive 32-ounce container, and every single cup delivers 20 grams of dense protein. That is roughly 80 cents for a serving of high-quality muscle support. What makes Greek yogurt so incredibly effective for older adults is that it contains both fast-digesting whey protein and slow-digesting casein protein. The whey hits your system immediately, delivering amino acids to start repairing the muscle right away, while the casein stays in your gut, providing a steady release of nourishment for hours afterward. It is the perfect combination. On top of that, Greek yogurt is packed with probiotics. As we age, our gut bacteria changes, often leading to poor digestion and higher inflammation. The probiotics in the yogurt heal the gut lining, which means your body becomes much more efficient at absorbing the protein you eat. I read about a study where seniors who ate Greek yogurt every day for 12 weeks saw massive improvements in their walking speed and the absolute strength of their legs. It is also loaded with calcium, and you cannot build strong muscles if the bones underneath them are weak. I buy the plain full-fat version because the added sugars in the flavored ones just cause more inflammation. I mix it with a handful of walnuts or use it instead of sour cream when we have baked potatoes. It is versatile, it is cheap, and it works around the clock to protect your tissue. And finally, we arrive at number one, the absolute most effective, lowest cost muscle-building food a senior can buy. Dried beans. I know they do not look like a powerhouse muscle food. They look humble, but for about $1.20 a pound, you get roughly 12 full servings of high-quality protein. That is 10 cents a serving. Every cooked cup gives you 15 solid grams of protein, but it is the combination of elements in a bean that makes it so powerful. You get the protein for repair, complex carbohydrates for long-lasting energy, massive amounts of fiber for your gut health, and essential minerals like magnesium and potassium that physically make the muscles contract and grow. That fiber is absolutely critical. It feeds the good bacteria in your gut, which drastically reduces the chronic low-grade inflammation that causes age-related muscle loss in the first place. Beans also contain powerful polyphenols that act like a shield for your muscle tissue. I read a massive study that tracked seniors for 5 years. The ones who ate beans regularly had significantly more muscle mass, better physical function, fewer falls, and maintained their overall independence much longer than the ones who did not. Now, beans do not contain every single amino acid on their own, but your body is smart. If you eat beans at lunch and a handful of almonds or a piece of chicken later in the day, your body combines them to form complete proteins. You do not have to eat them all at the exact same time. I keep black beans, kidney beans, and chickpeas in the pantry. I cook them slow in a big pot. 1 pound of dried beans gives you 9 times as much protein as a fancy, expensive protein bar that costs the exact same amount of money. I mash them up, I put them in soups, I eat them as a side dish with my dinner. At less than 1 penny per gram of protein, they absolutely defeat anything else in the grocery store. You do not need to empty your wallet to buy your strength back. You do not need to let the fitness industry convince you that getting older has to be an expensive battle. I remember the day I realized my new grocery list was actually working. I was out in the garage getting ready to put down some new soil in Linda's flower beds. I had a 40-pound bag of topsoil sitting in the trunk of the car. 6 months earlier, I would have asked Derek to come over and lift it out for me because my legs would have shaken the moment I took the weight. But that morning, I just planted my boots on the concrete, bent my knees, grabbed the plastic bag, and stood straight up. My thighs felt solid. My back did not twinge. I carried that bag all the way across the yard without losing my breath. I had rebuilt the foundation of my body, and I did it with eggs, lentils, and canned fish. I am not asking you to change your entire life overnight. That never works anyway. I am asking you to start with just 2 of these foods this week. Next time you are at the store, buy a dozen eggs and a bag of dry beans. Make a simple bean soup for dinner. Eat 2 whole eggs for breakfast. Stock your pantry with a few cans of tuna or sardines so you always have cheap protein sitting right there waiting for you. Track how much money you usually spend on meat and compare it to these choices. You will realize very quickly that you can get significantly better results while keeping your hard-earned money in your pocket. Consistency is what matters, not perfection. If you keep giving your body the right raw materials, you will feel more energy, you will recover faster when you work around the house, and you will keep the physical strength that guarantees your independence. I am going to be right here, eating my bowls of lentil stew, taking my walks, and holding the line. I hope you decide to do the same, because protecting your freedom does not have to cost a fortune.